Good morning. Well, I was on my walk and talk last night, and my battery went dead on my phone, so I wasn't able to finish that up. So I thought I'd do a quick little one here from the living room, just to kind of send you out some information that I have on the shooting in Pennsylvania, attempted assassination of Donald Trump. There's an old saying for investigative reporting, and that's who, what, when, where, why. Now, the who part we do know at this time. This was a young person. I'm reluctant to call him a man because he was 20 years old, and generally I would reserve that term for somebody who's been out in the world for a while and is able to support themselves and maybe has a family and has had some experience. And he's just 2 years out of high school, so I don't want to call him a kid since he's over 18, but I'm reluctant to call him a man. Anyhow, his name is Thomas Matthew Crooks, 20-year-old white young man. And we're starting to get more information about him as people are investigating his classmates in high school. And because he graduated 2 years ago, the people that knew him and went to school with him, most of them are still around, and their memories are pretty fresh as to what kind of a person he was and any kind of interactions that they had with him. So this was such a short period of time ago. These memories will be pretty reliable. Also, eventually his family members will be talked to, and he did work. He worked apparently at a care facility where he delivered food to the people who were living in the care facility. In other words, they probably had a kitchen there, and he just carried food from the kitchen to the rooms where the patients were. So those people will be interviewed, his teachers will be interviewed, and the picture that is beginning to emerge about him is that he was small of physical stature, that he was a loner, spent a lot of time by himself in school. He was frequently bullied. He was good in the maths and the sciences, which would mean that he might have been a little bit geeky and was probably the target of ridicule. Something else that I think we'll be interested to know about is, did he have any girlfriends? Was he a virgin? And you might think that that's a silly thing to wonder about, but that's all a part of maturing, having a relationship with the opposite sex, or in the case of a homosexual, somebody of the same sex. Nevertheless, having a relationship, and hopefully a successful relationship. So if he did not have a successful relationship with the opposite sex, this could play into mental conditions that are not healthy. I was thinking about when I was growing up, and I started to notice girls when I was about 12 years old, and I started to go through puberty. Well, by that time, I was in junior high school, started in the seventh grade. And the school that I went to is a public school in Long Beach. And they had this program called Friday Nighters. And on Friday nights, you could go to the gymnasium at the high school, and they had somebody there, excuse me, playing records. They had adults there for chaperones. And that's where I danced with my first girl. That's where I started to interact with girls. Started to kind of like partner up because that was interesting to me. I wanted to hold a girl's hand. I wanted to kiss a girl. And from that beginning, you begin to get a little bit more confidence. Yeah, you do have rejection, but then other times girls are friendly to you. And so this begins your confidence so that by the time you're 18, you feel a lot more confident in asking a girl out on a date. And I'm just guessing that this young person never had that kind of experience. And with social media now these days, there are other ways to sort of at least temporarily assuage your sexual drive. And at 20 years old, you have a very strong hormonally driven sexual drive that has to be released. So I'm going to guess that that's one of the things that was going on with this young man, that he was frustrated in that way. And this is, and I just call him a young man, this is in no way excusing him for his behavior. Okay? This is just my attempt at an explanation. We don't have all the information yet. It's going to take a while, but I'm going to predict that this is going to play into the evaluation of why he did what he did. Now, I'm going to say something that's controversial, and I'm sure this should get a reaction. It is very possible that what happened here was what is called suicide by cop. This is a young person who is obviously having some difficult mental problems. Anybody who would go shoot another human being, particularly somebody they don't know, particularly a person who is a candidate for president of the United States, that is a very unhinged thing to do. I mean, people don't, very seldom, they may have thoughts, gee, I'd like to kill that person, but very, very few people ever carry that sort of a thing out. So that falls into the category of a mental health disorder. So I think that's what you're gonna discover as the days tick by. Now, there's a lot of conspiracy theories that are going to come up, and there are certainly legitimate questions to ask, like, how could that building on which was his perch to shoot at the ex-president, how could that have gone unguarded? I mean, there weren't just Secret Service personnel there. There were city police, county sheriffs, etc. There were police all over the place. So it would seem like a natural, no sense, no brainer thing to do to have somebody cover that area. Now, one story that I heard, and this has not been confirmed, one story I heard was that there was a ladder in the back of that building. How that ladder got there, I don't know. We'll find out if there was a ladder. And this sniper climbed up that ladder, crawled along the roof, got to the peak on the roof, and when he got into that position, a cop had also climbed up the ladder sometime behind him. And apparently when the cop got up there and he popped his head up, the shooter turned around and saw him and pointed his rifle at him. And the cop immediately retreated back down that ladder rather than having his head shot off, because he was in a very vulnerable position. Could he have pulled his gun out and shot this person? Well, perhaps, if this story is true, obviously that cop is going to be interviewed, and we'll find out why he did what he did, if this is, in fact, what happened. So let's say that it did happen. So I'm sure the cop immediately got on his radio and said, hey, we got a guy up here with a rifle on the roof. So the time frame is going to be interesting to find out when the Secret Service sharpshooters who were on the roof of the building behind where Trump was speaking, it looked like there were two of them, and they were in military garb, and they had, looked like 50 caliber rifles set up on tripods, pointed in the direction of that building. You know, what was going through their head? How soon did they know that there was somebody up there? And how did they come to the conclusion that the person had a rifle? Because apparently they fired pretty quickly after the shooter shot. And I don't know what the rules of engagement are. You know, cops and police can't just shoot somebody on the idea that maybe that person has a gun. I mean, watch these videos on YouTube, you'll see situations where the cops are confronting somebody, person in front of a store or something, and the guy's got a gun, and it's in his hand, but the gun is pointed down. Until that arm is raised up and pointed at the cops, they won't shoot him. So I don't know what the rules of engagement are for the Secret Service, but that's going to be an interesting interview. when we find out what exactly is going on with that. So that's the why part of it that really hasn't been answered, the motive behind this situation. The who, we know that. The where, we know that. The when, we know that. So all of these things will come to light. In the meantime, the conspiracy theories will abound. Back in the old day, before there was an internet, and our only source of news was basically 3 channels and newspapers. It took quite a bit longer. And these ideas were filtered through a filtration system because there was journalistic integrity, and there's a thing in the journalism business where they like to have 2 sources before they run with a story, and that takes longer to vet things out. Today, everybody has one of these devices that I'm holding in my hand, and there were, probably at least 1,000 of them at this rally that were recording different things. And so there's going to be a lot more video that will become available and a lot more information. So we'll get a clearer idea of exactly what went down. But once again, very grateful that he was not critically shot. I mean, there would be hell to pay. Right now, this country would be in turmoil. We saw what happened on January 6th, just on the proffered lie that the election was stolen. And so in the ensuing 3 years, that notion has constantly been ginned up by Trump, and it's created an unbelievable aura of hostility on the part of many of his dedicated followers. Those people that stormed the Capitol, of the, I don't know how many people have been convicted so far. I think it's in the neighborhood of 1,200. About 300 of those people have been convicted of serious crimes. In other words, attacking the police, beating the police, gassing the police, tasering the police. So out of a crowd of thousands and thousands of people, a very, very small percentage of people actually engaged in violence. There were plenty of people that came into the Capitol, walked around in there, but didn't engage in destruction of private property. But there is a cadre of people, Trump followers, that are, I would say, they have difficulty with impulse control, and they believe that violence is an appropriate way to resolve these kind of issues. And our country has a long history of this kind of a thing. I mean, our Revolutionary War, that was, in a sense, an insurrection against the King of England. So people get this sort of stuff in their head, and now with there being over 300 million guns in our country, anything can happen. So I'll be talking more on the subject tonight when I do my walk and talk, but I thought I'd get this out since I didn't get anything broadcast yesterday. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you later today. Bye.